Brought to you by Asombro Institute for Science Education, dedicated to increasing natural science literacy through engaging, place-based education.
Hi everybody, this is Kelly
and Abby
with the Asombro Institute for Science Education, and today we're going to lead you through a mini desert data jam. Data jams were created by Asombro as a fun way to mix science, math, and your creativity.
If you've done a data jam before, you know there's lots of steps we go through to understand how scientists ask questions, collect and analyze data to identify trends, and explain them. In this mini data jam, we won't be going through all those steps in detail, but we'll be using real data collected by scientists that work here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, at the Jornada Experimental Range, and at the Jornada Basin Long-Term Ecological Research Program.
It's your job to figure out what that data tells us about the world and communicate it in some unique way. Data jammers have written poems and songs, created artwork and infographics, even baked cakes and made videos to share their data story. It's all about having fun and communicating science.
For this mini data jam, you'll need to first choose a data set. Then look closely at the data to find a trend or pattern. Come up with a way to show that trend creatively. It could be through words in a poem, song, or skit, or through pictures, symbols, and colors in an infographic, artwork, or craft. Share your data jam project with someone and teach them what you learned from looking at the data. Let's look at a data set together and check out some example projects. Make sure to watch the whole video so you understand all the steps before you get started on your own.
In the video description below, you'll see a link to the Mini Data Jam website. There are several datasets there for you to choose from. Take a look at them and choose one you find interesting.
The datasets will look something like this.
For example, let's look at this dataset about mammals in 2 habitats near Las Cruces. This data was collected by Dr. Schooley, a wildlife biologist from the University of Illinois, and his team. They set up motion detector wildlife cameras in shrublands and grasslands at the Jornada Experimental Range near Las Cruces, New Mexico, to take pictures of the wildlife that lived in each habitat. Later, they looked through all the pictures and counted how many different animals were photographed in each.
The data table here shows how many photos per month were taken of each animal species in both habitats. It also shows the total number of photos per month from each.
When you look at the data, you might already have a question in mind that you could answer with this dataset. Most scientists already do when they get to this point, and that's what we do in the full desert data jam. For example, you might be wondering if coyotes are more common in grassland or shrubland habitats. But for this mini data jam, you can also just look for a pattern in the data. We want to find a data trend or pattern in this data. So what do you notice when you look carefully at the numbers?
So I think we can actually answer your question about where coyotes are more common. Looking at the data table, I noticed that there are more detections per month of coyotes in shrublands than grasslands.
You're right. I think it's also interesting that there are some zeros in the data table, which means some of the animals didn't show up in the photos for one of the habitats.
Interesting. One more thing that I notice is that badgers, on the first line, have the same number of photos per month in both habitats.
If you don't see any patterns, try making a quick graph of the data. Here's the data from the table in a graph. The y-axis shows the number of photos per month, and the x-axis lists the species. The key shows you that the green bars represent the grassland habitat and the blue bars represent the shrubland habitat. What do you notice about the data now? You might notice that the canines, coyotes and kit foxes, are more common in the shrubland, but the oryx and pronghorn were only found in the grassland. But there are a lot of other patterns you might find.
These patterns that we saw are the story the data is telling us, or the data trend. It might help you to summarize the data trend in a sentence or two, like we did.
Now comes the fun part of a data jam. We found a data trend and we need to come up with an interesting way to show it. You can do all sorts of creative things, so we asked our friends at Asombro to help us out. Let's take a look at Amelia's Data Jam song.
If you like to write, you can share your data trend in a poem or a song. I rewrote the lyrics to Take Me Out to the Ballgame. Notice that I described the data trend and I also included the numbers in the song. Feel free to have fun and record yourself doing something silly. Here's the song that I wrote.
Oh, take me out to the grasslands, take me out to the shrubs, find me coyotes and kid foxes. I just want to know where it is that they use in shrublands. Coyotes .96, foxes .84 detect, but there's no pronghorns in the shrubs. And there is no hawks. No hawks.
Wow, that was so creative! If you like working with your hands, you can make a craft or build a model to represent the data. I made a model of both habitats and painted model mammals to put in each. The size of each mammal is scaled to the number of detections per month from the data table. A larger mammal in the model represents more detections. As the key shows, every 2 centimeters in height of each of the mammal models represents 0.1 detections of that animal. To figure out how large to make each mammal, I first had to determine how many 0.1 detections it had each month. I did that by dividing each detection by 0.1. For example, coyotes in the grassland were detected 0.66 times per month, so I got 6.6. Then, to figure out how tall to make the coyote for the grassland, I multiplied 6.6 by 2 centimeters and got 13.2 centimeters. So I made the coyote in the grassland 13.2 centimeters tall. I made sure to keep it consistent by measuring from the bottom of each animal's feet to the top of its head without including its ears or horns.
That model was awesome, Stephanie. Really cool. I really enjoy doing projects on my computer, so I made an infographic. An infographic uses symbols to represent data. In this one I made, each animal is represented by their footprint, and the size of the footprint represents the number of photos per month we saw in each habitat.
There are so many ways to show data trends, so get creative, but make sure you're still representing the data accurately. Let's take another look at that infographic. It includes a key and scale to explain what the infographic means. You'll probably need to create a scale for your project. Stephanie explained how she made her scale, but what if we wanted to use the number of footprints instead of the size to represent data in this infographic? Does it make sense to use 1 footprint equals 1 photo per month? Not really, because all our data are numbers smaller than 1. Luckily, we can multiply or divide your data to scale up or down. What if we set our scale to 1 footprint equals 0.1 photos per month? Now we need 9.6 footprints to represent coyotes in the shrubland and 6.6 coyote footprints for the grassland. Whatever method you use, make sure to include the scale and key in your project.
Once you finish your project, make sure you share it with someone so they can learn about your data trend too.
Take a picture and share it in the comments below or post it online and tag Asombro. We love to see your data jams. Now get to work and have fun data jamming.